Good morning, afternoon. It is 2:30. I'm going to open the subcommittee hearing for House Bill 1025 relative to disorderly conduct. And are you here for this bill? Well, we don't have the sponsor. It doesn't look like anybody else is here. Did you have something you would like to say about the bill? We're happy to hear what you have to say. Okay, thank you for sharing.
So, my question with this is, the bill repeals the prohibition against directing at another person in public place obscene, derisive, or offensive words which are likely to provoke a violent reaction. So if somebody says something in somebody's face and somebody punches him in the face, is that person then held, they're free too to punch the person in the face? So if somebody's going to say obscene, awful things to somebody and they punch them in the face, I think fair is fair.
Is
Well,
Bowden the other person?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, is Bowden the other person?
Yeah, but she sent an email and said she wasn't coming.
Oh, she did.
So, Representative Reed, I don't know exactly the answer to what you're saying. So I'm going to give an example. And this did not necessarily, it did not become an actual physical fight. Actually, nothing happened. There were no words actually exchanged, but there's a video, and it's been like 2 years, and it was in DC. Okay. And there's a video where there was a group of people that left an event, and there was a large group of people that, in my humble opinion, if you'd watch the video, I think it would be quite evident that there was a lot of harassing going on of the group that left this event. So people were, they had signs, they had banners, and they were very much in the person's face as the person was walking. So as the person was just walking down the street, minding their own business, trying to get to the hotel, there was a group of people, and the group of people were jumping back and forth in front of these couple of people. So basically, when people left the event, they left in staggered groups. So some, there might have been 2 or 3 people in a group, there might have been 4 or 5 people in the group, but this particular was only 2 people. And there was an entire crowd of people, and they were literally jumping back and forth, and they were screaming in their faces asking them this question, and they just kept on repeating the question over and over and over. I kept on looking at that and saying that person is clearly antagonizing. Mm-hmm. They're clearly provoking. The reaction that they wanted, in my opinion, was probably to fight. I think that they wanted the person they were provoking to be physical with them, right? To actually reach out and do something, because then they could have said, oh, look, they punched me and I didn't even do anything, right? And sometimes we see that, here, you're allowed to record people, but when a person takes, a selfie stick and literally, does this to you, that is antagonizing, and it's incredibly rude. Just because it's illegal doesn't mean that it's not rude.
Right.
But does it give you the right to punch the person in the face? Probably not. Not actually, it doesn't give you the right to punch them in the face. So I don't exactly know what the sponsor's intent is. When he was here, the only thing I remember him saying was, if I want to say, you are this or this or this, if I'm out in public, I want to be able to have the right to say that. I think you're allowed to say that regardless. I just don't think that it means the person can punch you in the face.
Yeah, my initial impression when I read this was that it was for the peaceful protesters, like you said, who choose to get inside the opposition's bubble and scream at them and yell at them and harass them, and they don't want to be accountable for those actions. They want a free ride to just do that. Our free speech is protected. We have the right to peaceful assembly, but we do not have the right to harass people and get in their face in their bubble. The only way I think I would support this is if the other side could retaliate without any kind of consequence. So if they choose to harass and intimidate somebody, then whatever reaction it drew from the other side should be equally acceptable within reason.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I don't, so the example that I gave you, what the people that were doing the antagonizing, what they were doing was considered perfectly legal. I don't think it should have been, to be honest with you. They were very much, in my opinion, provoking. But at the end of the day, there was, it was essentially ignored. But so I have the book, right? And so the question is if you take out that section, then everything else is still kind of in there. So how would it all come together? So B, which is what he has here, RSA 6442, and then B, which is right here, it says directs at another person in a public place, obscene, derisive or offensive words which are likely to provoke a violent reaction on the part of an ordinary person. Or, so if you take out that, then you would just go from A right to C, right? So A reads engages in fighting or in violent, terminless or threatening behavior in a public place. Or, so B would taken out, we'd go to C, obstructs vehicular or pedestrian traffic on any public street or sidewalk or the entrance any other building, whatever. So basically what they're saying is everything else would still be okay to do, except you would be allowed to say offensive words. I mean, I don't know. First of all, you can't legislate someone's feelings.
Exactly. This is already in here. And I'll give an example, which I shared with Terry, that happened in Nashua, and this was just 2 months ago, where a young lady was going in with her 2 grandchildren into City Hall. And the person coming out of City Hall resorted to call her the N-word several times. She has no clue what made that person do that. Didn't know the woman or anything. So, of course, the kids, frightened, grabbed hold of grandma. Little boy was 4. He grabbed hold of grandma. All right. So, but she went on in City Hall, went into the area City Hall where she was going to pay a bill. The woman came behind her into that location in City Hall, still calling her the N-word, and the kids were petrified. Someone in City Hall made the phone call to the police, and that person was arrested and was charged.
Yeah, which I would think would make
So,
sense.
as she should be. So this bill would repeal that and give that person the right to do that.
If you take this out, they don't necessarily have that right. That
Right.
person to be charged.
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So no, I would not take that out.
So you are in agreement that this would give people the legal leg to
Yeah, absolutely.
to intimidate, harass, and
Yeah, because you can't, like I was speaking to one of our members and they were saying that, words don't hurt. I said, excuse me. We all know that words can hurt depending on what the words are and what you're saying to the person and how angry or how vulgar you are with the person. It does hurt. And it could cite violence. And in that case, of course, you got 2 grandchildren with you. You're definitely not going to try to go back at someone. But had that been a different situation, it might have ended differently.
yes, and with freedom comes responsibility. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't, you just can't do that, and so
Yeah.
I think.
So basically, clearly we can't legislate a person's feelings, right?
Right.
You're responsible for your own feelings, and those belong to you. I'm not going to take responsibility for someone else feels. I also don't think that we also have to live in a civil society where we all, there's an expectation when you walk out your door, right? And when you start taking away any kind of expectation of some normalcy, then you just have anarchy,
Right.
right? And quite honestly, I'm really trying to figure out how everything else would go in to play here if you took out one whole, paragraph, but they all seem to kind of go in with each other, and I really just don't see the point of any of it, to be honest with you. I think it's ridiculous. And I don't know, exactly what the intent of it is either, right? Because all I remember him saying when he was here was that, you know, if he wants to be able to, you know, say, and if I'm remembering correctly, what he said was a lot of slang words and like a lot of obscene words, you know, you're this, you're this. I mean, I guess if you want to say that, you're going to say it anyway. And then, you know, they don't want it to be, they as in the sponsor, I'm saying they don't want it to be illegal. They don't want
Right.
to be able to get in trouble for
Right.
such things.
Right.
At the end of the day, if it escalates to where you are being disorderly and you're causing all this havoc, then, you know, it is what it is. So I think we're all saying the same thing, and maybe a little bit differently, but I think we're both
Yes.
Yeah.
saying the same thing here. So,
Absolutely.
well, we don't have a quorum, so we can't even technically vote this out. But I do know that we can still make a recommendation, and you know, my personal recommendation just would be to ITL the bill. Okay. Well, that's where we're at.
And mine would be the same anyway.
So, yeah, I think it's just,
So I'm going to make an ITL recommendation, and here, it's just going to be a recommendation. I'll just put that you moved it. Is
Yep.
that okay?
Yep.
I don't know that we can officially do it, but just supply roads. All right. Well, that was a really long way for 10 minutes time. All right.
this is how our read one
um,
went too, right? It was
did-
like
Did the
over
police
really
chiefs have
quickly.
anything that they wanted to say before we close anything out, or?
We appreciate that. I signed in opposed for both chiefs and, the New Hampshire Association of Chiefs of Police and the New Hampshire Sheriff's Association. In reviewing all the bills for this week, I did let her know I was gonna scoot over here this afternoon. And Sheriff Croft did bring up, what this leads to a lot of times for our fights, and this leads to escalated violence, is what they said, and that's why they were supposed to report the statute.
Okay. Pretty much what we,
Yeah,
what
it's
we
pretty
said.
clear.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. We're going to make a recommendation to the whole committee to ITL it. And whenever we vote it out, I suspect that it'll go on the consent calendar, but you know, we could be wrong. Can't speak for other people
Yeah.
than are right here. So, all right. We good?
Good job.
All right. I am closing the subcommittee work session on
Over and out.
House Bill 1025 FN.
I'm gonna go all the education and. Not to testify, just to listen. But, you know, I mean, because how about that woman that was, or not even the woman, the guy that was in the restaurant? I don't know who it was it? Rand Paul maybe? And they followed him into the restaurant and they were harassing him in the restaurant.